There is a knowing that no book can hold, no teacher can give, no tongue can speak. The Sufis call it Marifa. It is not learned, it is unveiled, like the sudden lifting of a veil from the heart, and in that instant you see. The seeker was never seeking, it was the beloved, searching for himself through you. The scholar may speak of wine, weighing its color and taste, but the Gnostic, he is drunk before the glass is even poured. This knowledge is not information, it is fire. It burns away the one who thought they were learning until only the flame remains. And when it comes, you vanish. And in your vanishing, the real recognizes itself through your eyes.
What is Marifa, this secret knowledge of the Sufis that no book can teach? It is not ordinary learning. Ordinary knowledge fills the mind with information, but Marifa is a direct spiritual awakening, a light poured into the heart that transforms the very being who receives it. The mystics say, knowledge on the tongue may prove a point, but knowledge in the heart opens the door to God. One is information, the other is inner transformation. The Sufi masters called this divine recognition tajalli, the moment of self-disclosure, where God reveals himself not outside of you, but through your very consciousness. The seeker discovers a shocking truth. You were never looking for the divine. The divine was always looking through you. As Junaid said, the color of the water is the color of its container. This mystical knowledge takes the shape of the heart it enters. In one heart it becomes pride, in another despair. But in the heart that has been polished, it becomes illumination. This is why the Gnostics remind us, Marifa cannot be taught like philosophy or psychology. It cannot be carried in books nor transferred from teacher to student. It is not secondhand. It is living wisdom, a flame that, once ignited, burns away the illusion of separation until only God remains. This is the heart of Sufism. The hidden knowledge, the mystical recognition that changes not just how you think, but who you are. The Sufi path is not a straight road. It is a descent into the self, a burning away of illusions, and a return to what has always been present. The mystics say it unfolds in stages, each one stripping you closer to the heart of the real. The first stage is Sharia, the law, the form, the container. This is where the seeker begins, with discipline, with boundaries, with the outer shape of the path. Without form, the wine has no cup. Without law, the spirit has no vessel. Then comes Tariqa, the path itself. This is the road of practice, patience, and surrender. It is here the seeker learns trust, humility, and devotion. The outer rules begin to turn inward, shaping not just behavior, but the soul itself. Beyond this is Haqiqa, the truth behind the form. If Sharia was the body, Haqiqa is the soul within it. It is the moment you realize that rituals and practices were never the goal, only signs pointing to the hidden reality they contain. And then, Rifa, the direct recognition of God, a light cast into the heart. Ibn Arabi said it clearly. Rifa is not acquired by effort, nor inherited from a teacher. It is given by God alone, to whom he wills. This is the paradox of the spiritual journey. Discipline and effort are necessary, but they can only take you to the threshold. They cannot carry you through the door. You polish the mirror, but it is the sun that chooses when to shine. The Sufi masters warned against confusing effort with attainment. Nun al-Misri described the stance of the true Gnostic. His outward is with creation, but his inward is with the truth. Al-Gharaz said, the mark of the Gnostic is that he is rich without gold, strong without soldiers, and safe without fortresses. This is the strange economy of the path. To lose is to gain. To empty is to be filled. Up to this point, effort matters. Fasting, prayer, silence, service. But when the final stage arrives, Marifa is never taken. It is only received. And when it comes, it overwhelms. Rusbahan Bakli whispered of this state, the Gnostic swims in an ocean of meanings without shore or bottom. Junaid al-Baghdadi went further. The reality of gnosis is bewilderment. To walk this path is not to cross into another land. It is to dissolve the very map you thought you carried. The ego dissolves, the concepts fade, and what remains is a knowledge not learned but lived, not studied but revealed. The seeker discovers the ultimate reversal. You were never moving toward God. Every step you took was already within God. The path was not a line stretching forward, but a circle collapsing inward. And when the last veil is lifted, you see, there was never a seeker, there was only the seen. This is the Sufi journey, from Sharia to Tariqa to Haqiqa and finally to Rifa, from discipline to surrender to recognition to union. The journey of the seeker who disappears, only to discover they were always at home. What does it mean to live as a Gnostic, one who has tasted Marifa? The Sufi masters describe the Gnostic not by what he knows, but by how he is. His wealth is not in gold, his strength is not in armies, his safety is not in walls. He carries no fortress because his refuge is God himself. The Gnostic is a paradox. Outwardly, he walks among creation. Inwardly, he dwells only with the truth. His hands buy bread in the market, his lips speak with neighbors, but his heart never leaves the presence of the divine. Rusbehan Bakli said, "The Gnostic swims in an ocean of meanings without shore or bottom." This is not poetry, it is description. Imagine consciousness itself dissolving into a sea so vast that every wave is a revelation, and every drop carries the taste of infinity. Junaid al-Baghdadi put it plainly, the reality of gnosis is bewilderment. To know God is not to master him, but to be undone by him. The closer the Gnostic draws, the more the self falls away, until all that remains is astonishment. This is not a retreat from the world. The true Gnostic does not hide in caves or flee from humanity. Abu al-Qasim al-Qushayri wrote, "The Gnostic walks in markets, eats with the people, and yet his heart never leaves the presence. He can see God in the beggar and in the one who refuses the beggar. He can recognize the face in every face. The scholar studies about God. The Gnostic becomes the place where God knows himself. Knowledge by correspondence gives way to knowledge by presence. It is no longer, I know God, but rather, God sees himself through me." This is why Bayezid Bastami cried, "I went from God to God until they called from me, in me, O thou, I." The illusion of distance collapses. The seeker dissolves into the sought. The eye that searched dissolves into the eye that was always the seeing itself. The first breath of the Gnostic, said Shibli, is gratitude without cause. The last breath is praise without self. Gratitude not for a gift received, but for existence itself. Praise not for one's own virtue, but for the endless radiance of the real. And perhaps the most mysterious of all, the Gnostic is hidden among people. No one truly knows him but God. He appears ordinary, he shops, he eats, he laughs, but his being is lit from within by a flame no library could ever kindle. This is the Gnostic's way of being, living in two worlds at once, feet on the earth, heart in the infinite. Outwardly among creation, inwardly dissolved in God. A mirror where the divine sees its own beauty. A life that has become presence itself. What happens when the seeker finally surrenders? When every veil has fallen and nothing remains to hide behind? The mystics tell us, this is the point where the self itself dissolves. Bayezid Bastami described it in words that shatter all logic. I went from God to God, until they cried from me, in me, O thou, I. The one who began the journey is no longer the one who arrives. The I collapses, and in its place, only the divine remains. This is not metaphor, it is the death of the ego. What Sufis call Fana, annihilation in God. The scholar studies about God. The Gnostic becomes the place where God knows himself. the knower vanishes. The known alone abides. Al-Hallaj, who was executed for what he dared to proclaim, cried out, Ana al-Haqq, I am the truth. Not because his ego became God, but because his ego was burned away. What remained was only the truth, speaking through the empty vessel of his being. Rumi sang of this same disappearance. The knower is not he who speaks of God, but he in whom God speaks. Do you see the reversal? Knowledge is no longer something possessed, it is presence itself. The seeker is not the owner of wisdom, he is its disappearance. The Gnostic, said Junaid, is one who has no shore, for he is plunged into the sea of the real. Imagine falling endlessly into a vast ocean, with no ground beneath, no sky above, only the embrace of infinity. That is the state of the one who is dissolved. And yet, paradoxically, this dissolution is not an end, but a beginning. Ibn Arabi spoke of the perfect human, the mirror in which God sees his own beauty. When the self disappears, the divine recognizes itself through you. Consciousness discovers its own ground. Being looks upon being. Ghibli described the flavor of this state. The first breath of the Gnostic is gratitude without cause. The last is praise without self. Gratitude and praise with no I left to claim them. Only the fragrance of the divine breathing through what once was you. Here lies the climax of the path. The seeker discovers there was never a seeker at all. What you called your journey was God's unveiling. What you called your search was the beloved's desire to see himself. The one who knocked dissolves into the one who always was. The door. This is dissolution, not a crossing of a boundary, but the burning of the map. Not the gaining of knowledge, but the disappearance of the knower. The Gnostic becomes nothing, and in that nothingness discovers the everything that was always already there. Beyond the dissolution of the self lies a greater unfolding, the stations of certainty. The Sufi masters described 3 thresholds of knowing, not as ideas to be memorized, but as fires that burn through the soul until nothing false remains. The first is al-Yaqin, the knowledge of certainty. This is when faith is no longer inherited or borrowed. Concepts become recognition. You no longer believe because others have told you. You know with a clarity that cuts deeper than thought. It is like hearing of fire for the first time and realizing that, yes, it must exist. But beyond hearing is seeing. This is the second station. al-Yaqin, the eye of certainty. Now the fire is not just an idea. You see it directly. It crackles before you, undeniable, unmistakable. Belief turns to vision. The witness merges with the witnessed. And then comes the final station, al-Yaqin, the truth of certainty. Here, even the experience of seeing dissolves. You do not look at the fire, you are burned by it, consumed into its essence. The knower, the knowing, and the known vanish into pure being. Rumi mapped this journey with perfect simplicity. First, I sought the beloved, then I sought the seeker. Then I realized seeker and sought were one. Do you hear the echo? The fire was never separate from you. Certainty is not about reaching something new. It is about awakening to what was always there. Abu Bakr al-Khalabad wrote, Gnosis is to see the real in everything, without confusing it with anything. The Gnostic does not float above the world. His feet remain on the earth, his hands still work, his words still speak. But his vision has changed. He sees every form as a sign pointing to its source. This is why Ibn Atta said, the Gnostic is not veiled from God by the coming or going of things. He sees the light of God in everything, then sees everything vanish in the light of God. The world does not disappear at this stage, it becomes transparent. What once seemed solid now shines as a window. Every object, every moment, every encounter reveals the face. The Gnostic can see the beloved in a beggar, in a stranger, in the one who loves, and in the one who wounds. This is the ascension beyond dissolution. The ego has been burned away, but what returns is not emptiness. It is vision. Not blindness, but a seeing so complete, it sees through everything. These are the stations of certainty: to know, to see, to become. To pass from knowledge to vision to truth itself. To live as a flame of recognition, burning quietly in the heart of the world. After the fire of dissolution, after the self has vanished in the sea of the real, there is a return. The Sufis call this Baqa, subsistence after extinction. This is not a return to the old self. That self has been burned away. What returns is something new, or perhaps something timeless. A life lived in the world, but lit from within by the flame of Rifa. The Gnostic does not remain dissolved in silence forever. He comes back into the marketplace, into the noise of daily life, but he no longer sees with the eyes of separation. His heart is steady in the presence, even as his body moves through the world. Abu al-Qasim al-Kushairi wrote, "The Gnostic walks in markets, eats with the people, yet his heart never leaves the presence." This is the paradox of the return. The Gnostic eats bread, but tastes the divine in every crumb. He speaks with a neighbor, but hears God in every word. Ibn Atta described this state with precision. The Gnostic sees only God in everything, while seeing everything in its proper place. Do you hear the balance? The world does not vanish, but it becomes transparent, a mirror reflecting its source. The Gnostic can see the beggar and the one who refuses the beggar, and in both the face shines. He sees the divine in joy and in sorrow, in gain and in loss, in love and in betrayal. Every form is a sign. Every moment is revelation. This is what the tradition calls living with divine vision. The mystic has crossed the threshold where there is no longer God and I, only the seeing itself. Multiplicity remains, but it no longer deceives. The one shines through the many. And so, the Gnostic returns, but not as he was. He is like a wave that has disappeared into the ocean and then risen again, carrying the taste of infinity within its foam. He is in the world, but not of it. He walks among people, but his inward is with the eternal. This return is not escape, but embodiment. The Gnostic's life becomes a silent teaching. His presence radiates what no sermon can deliver, the fragrance of the real, hidden in plain sight. For this is the paradox of the return: to appear ordinary, yet to carry eternity in the gaze; to live simply, yet to embody the boundless; to walk in markets, to work with hands, to laugh, to grieve, and through it all, to see with the eyes of God. At the heart of the Sufi path lies a paradox so profound that words stumble before it. Rifa cannot be attained because it was never absent. The seeker struggles, disciplines, purifies. He fasts, he prays, he serves. He imagines he is climbing a mountain to reach the summit of divine truth, but when the veil finally lifts, he sees there was no mountain and no distance. The beloved was always here, closer than his own breath. Al-Hallaj's cry, "Ana al-Haqq," I am the truth, was not the ego claiming divinity, but the ego collapsing into what had always been present. The I dissolved, and in that vanishing, only the truth remained. Ibn Sina called this the intuitive intellect, the moment when individual consciousness awakens to its cosmic nature. When the mind recognizes that it was never separate from what it sought, the mystic realizes, I was not searching for God. It was God searching for himself through me. This is why Junaid said, the color of the water is the color of its container. When the heart is clouded, the real appears distorted. When the heart is clear, the water shines exactly as it is. No effort can make it arrive faster. No clinging can hold it. It comes as pure gift. And when it comes, the one who was waiting is gone. The paradox is unbearable to the rational mind. You cannot seek what was never absent. You cannot find what was never lost. The ego wants to claim it, to say, I attained enlightenment, I reached the truth, But the instant that claim arises, Rifa slips away, because there is no I left to own it. The masters tell us, practice, polish, serve, not to earn the truth, but to clear the space where it might unveil itself. Stillness, purity, love. These are the conditions that make the heart a mirror. But even then, the reflection is not in your control. The real appears when it wills, not when you demand. Rumi gave the final word. Love is the sea where the intellect drowns. That is the paradox. The ocean you are seeking is the ocean you already are. You do not enter it by crossing a line, but by dissolving the one who thought there was a shore. And so, the mystic laughs. After all the years of searching, he finds nothing new. He finds only what was always here, waiting behind the veil of himself. And so the circle closes. The path begins with law and discipline, with Sharia and Tariqa. It deepens into Haqq, the truth hidden within form. It dissolves in Marifa, direct recognition of the real. The seeker vanishes, the self dissolves, and what remains is only the seeing itself. And yet, the Gnostic returns. He walks in markets, eats with the people, works with his hands. Outwardly, nothing has changed, but inwardly, everything has vanished into God. The world is no longer a prison of forms, but a mirror of the infinite. This is the paradox of Marifa. You cannot attain it because it was never absent. The beloved was always nearer than your breath. The seeker was always the sought. The ocean you longed for was the ocean you already are. Rumi said, love is the sea where the intellect drowns. And in that drowning, a new life begins, not apart from the world, but within it. Every face becomes the face. Every moment becomes revelation. If these words have touched something in you, it is because the same light already flickers in your own heart. This journey is not someone else's story. It is your story, waiting to be lived. If you felt the fire of these truths, I invite you to walk further with us. Like this video, share your reflections in the comments, and subscribe to Inner Alchemy for more explorations into Sufism, mysticism, and the hidden dimensions of the soul. But the real is already here, whispering through your own breath. All that remains is to listen.